Hello, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting for the Legal and Finance Committee of Rapid City to order on September 30th at 12:30 p.m. First up is roll call and determination of quorum.
Drew?
Here.
Lehman? Here. Armstrong? Here. Solomon? Here. Jones? Here. Evans? We have a quorum.
Evans is no longer on this. Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you very much. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Move to approve by Jones, second by Armstrong. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is adopted. Now is a time for general public comment, a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. And although I have sheets that people want to speak, I have none for general public comment. So general public comment is now closed. We go on to consent items 1 through 6. I have no speaker requests, so public comment is now closed on that, unless I missed someone who wanted to speak on that. Nope, nobody. Okay. So the public comment is now is closed, and now we go to the consent items and see if any here on the council would like to remove any items 1 through 6. Seeing none, approval of the consent items. Good motion. Motion by Armstrong, second by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Okay. That leads us on to item number 7. We're on to the main event here, a couple of them. Request from Justin Harriman on behalf of the Rapid City Watershed Action to approve the attached resolution supporting the creation of a recreation area in the Upper Rapid Creek watershed. I believe we might have some questions for Justin if he's here. Okay. Justin is here. Any questions from the council? Or, oh, we are in public comment. I'm sorry, you guys. Go ahead, Justin. Would you like to comment now?
If I may.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you very much, council members. So, can you afford to have your water bill increase by $5,400 next year? I know that I can't. I know that my retired parents cannot as well. How many tourists want to visit Flint, Michigan for a vacation? These are the threats that our community is quietly facing right now. There are several companies from outside South Dakota who seek to profit from the gold that they think is buried in the rock in the national forest above Pactola Reservoir. 2 weeks ago, a team from F3 Mining was actually out surveying Sunnyside Gulch and Jenny Gulch alongside state employees. Last week, F3 actually received a state permit to drill in Sunnyside Gulch and Jenny Gulch. The next step would be a federal permit. We're pending the NEPA process right now. Sorry, I just ran up the stairs. Dr. Jerry Wright, former council member and School of Mines graduate, calculated that every gallon of water stored in Pactola and flowing down Rapid Creek to our aquifers, our drinking water taps, farms and ranches is actually worth 72 cents to our community, or about $2.9 billion per year. That's a real number. The value of this water in that year far outstrips any positive economic impact that mining operations in that Upper Rapid Creek watershed action might ever generate over its lifetime. Our economy, as we all know, is based in agriculture and tourism. In fact, 1 in 4 people in the Black Hills earn their income from tourism, both of which are highly dependent upon this water. Our semi-arid climate depends upon the water in the hills, in the reservoirs, and they are likely to be contaminated by this mining operation. This is a real and looming threat to our communities. It's not existential, it's here today. Now, if you look at the data provided by the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources, no hard rock mining operation in the Black Hills has ever not negatively impacted water quality downstream. The arsenic deposits on the Cheyenne riverbanks from the Gilt Edge mine are evidence of mining's track record here in the Black Hills. I can point to you where those are at. I won't get out of my boat in those areas because I don't want to get arsenic poisoning. Some other economic data that I'd like you to consider. Colorado's Gold King mine spill in southwestern Colorado in 2015 caused the river to actually turn orange. City closed their water intakes, farmers and ranchers closed off irrigation and lost crops and livestock, and the active tourism industry was crushed for a season. What would happen to Rapid City if this was Pactola and Rapid Creek? Please consider that. With the aquifers contaminated, how would our city survive? Who is going to pay for the cleanup once the company declares bankruptcy and walks away from that mine? The damage claims of that spill in Colorado exceed $2.4 billion. That's a substantial amount of money. They've spent $75 million trying to clean up the Gold King mine site just in the last 4 years and plan to spend another $65 million in the next 3 to 5 years. And there may be more after that, we don't know. At another site in Colorado, the Summitville mine cost $250 million to clean up. The water treatment plant associated with the project cost $19 million to build and $2.2 million a year to run in perpetuity forever. You, council members, have a moral and fiduciary responsibility to our community to please pass this resolution, secure the water and the future of our community. An open cut in Jenny Gulch above Pactola would be a travesty, and that is truly the future that we are looking at now. This is real. This is today. Any questions?
Thank you, Justin. We'll get back to you when we have council comment, okay?
Thank you.
Move on to item number 8. Now I have a bunch of speaker requests, so please be ready. Jim Franz, you're up next.
Members of the Legal and Finance Committee, staff, fellow citizens of Rapid City, today I would like to address the issue of authorization of keeping hens on certain residential properties. I strongly disagree with the statement in Ordinance 6445 that states in part the benefits outweigh any potential issues they may cause. I'd like to address 3 issues: potential reduction of property values, disease potential, and the ability to enforce and the role of the Humane Society. First, reduction of my property tax, of my property valuation is almost a certainty. The distance from my house to the common chain link fence in the backyard is only about 50 feet. And someone placing a chicken coop in the southwest corner of their yard would be closer to my house than to theirs. And that will be do nothing to increase the value of my home. In fact, I fear it would do just the opposite. I certainly wouldn't want to buy a house with a chicken coop located right in the corner of the property and possibly smelling, regardless of what the proponents of this may say. Before moving on, section C3 says in part, this is a little bit off the track, coops should be well ventilated. Coops should provide for at least 2 square feet per bird. Every other reference throughout that ordinance uses the word shall. If this ordinance does indeed go forward, that needs to be changed. Let's talk about disease and vermin. According to the CDC website, as of September 20th of this year, there's been 1,340 cases of salmonella related to contact with poultry in backyard flocks in 49 states, resulting in 229 hospitalizations and 1 death in Oklahoma. Next, we need to protect our children. They're going to see these, if they get chicks, they're going to see these pretty fuzzy little things. They're going to want to pick them up and pet them and snuggle them. And that is where children, especially under age 5, must be supervised, as they're more likely to become sick from germs like salmonella. And now I'd like to go through some of the sections line by line.
Could I remind you, you usually have 3 minutes. We might give you a bit more, but
If you
try
would,
to keep
please.
it. Yeah.
I'll keep it as short as I can. Coops and adjacent runs shall be enclosed and constructed in such a manner to keep out rodents and other vermin and to generally protect the chickens from predators. I personally am not that concerned with the chickens. I'm concerned with the vermin that will be coming through our neighborhoods and our individual yards because they're going to know that they are back there. Coops are to be constructed in such a manner. By whose definition? Are these coops going to be pre-authorized? Are they going to be inspected when they're done? What about heat and light in the wintertime? Are they just going to run an extension cord from the house 100 feet out to the coop? If that's code, I'm sorry I didn't know that. If it's not, who's going to enforce that? They're to be cleaned regularly to control dust, odor, waste, excrement. Define regularly. Your definition is different than mine. How often is excrement to be collected? The role of the Humane Society. There have already been 22 chickens surrendered, 6 seized, and 3 strays. They're going to get out of the coops. It's a given. It's already happened, and it isn't even entirely legal yet. The executive director of the Humane Society is quoted as saying just the other day, "We're not really equipped for poultry. Really, we're not built for poultry." They'll need to get them food, a medical exam, and try and find them a home, further straining their budget. In conclusion, covered the topics of potential reduction of property values, potential for disease and enforcement ability. I urge you, committee, to reject this ordinance and let it go no further. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Jerry Steinley.
Well, thanks for your time. You took all my talking points. So, I'm the director of the Humane Society, and we are opposed to the ordinance for chickens in the city. For similar reasons, we are not equipped for chickens. We put chickens in dog kennels, and that's how we keep them. Like you mentioned, we had about 22 animals or seized. We had 29 year-to-date seized. It's not a good environment for the chickens. They bring health concerns with zoonotic diseases. They pass back to human. They can. It's not a guarantee. They can do that, so it increases our cleaning, cleaning needs. So we're concerned about the housing, handling the poultry. We're also concerned about the increase on animal services and enforcement. Right now, they do get calls about stray chickens in town. We can get the chickens in. We can get them back out if we have to, the 29. But when these animals become domesticated, if this would pass, we're going to have to hold them for a 3-day stray period. So now we've got chickens in-house guaranteed for 3 days while we either wait for an owner or we can legally put them up for adoption. So that's another concern we have. We're also going to see more noise complaints. We're going to see more dogs in yards chasing chickens. We're going to see more cats. We're going to see more vermin. We're going to see more smell complaints. If the ordinance is well written and it's enforced, we might be in a better shape, but those are our main concerns. Some of the things in the ordinance, and I know I just got a couple of minutes, the one I also had a concern about was the coop design. Keeping out animals and vermin, that's not going to happen. This will never happen. If we inspect a coop based on this ordinance, one would never be approved. The location, too, is also a little concerning. Does this mean we can have a coop stuck on the side of our house that's 25 feet away from our neighbor? As it's written, you've either got an extra comma in here or you need another one. But it seems like this ordinance would allow people to put a coop right on their house as long as it's 25 feet away from their neighbor. So, as far as enforcement for us, that makes it more difficult. There's a lot of gray area there that our officers are going to have to try to enforce. Last thing I want to bring up, and I sent you a letter July 15th with these same concerns. I had a letter on July 15th that the Urban Hens Group was going to help with enforcement and picking up these strays, and Western Dakota Tech was going to offer 2-day training. Has any of that come to fruition, or is that just?
I have Cody coming up soon, and he can address those concerns.
Okay.
And I also have some more information for you on all those things.
Okay, because those things are important if this should get by the city, which, again, from the Humane Society, we hope it does not. So, thank you. Any questions?
We'll call you back up if we have
Okay.
more questions. And thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Corey McKenna.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for hearing me out. I'm not used to going to these kind of things, but I'm very interested in having chicken friends in the city. I know the concerns are cleanliness, noise, and where chickens that aren't cared for, where they'll end up if someone is not taking care of their chicken friends. I'd have to say that's why there needs to be rules and an ordinance so you can keep people in check, have the 4 hens, less noise, less mess with 4 hens. Do they end up at the animal shelter? Everybody eats chicken for dinner. I don't know why they would end up at the animal center, or I would think that they should go to a plant to be processed. Chickens, I obviously work at Walmart. I got off an hour early to come hear this out. I was interested. And through COVID, I've noticed that different items that you're used to seeing all the time on the shelves aren't always there. There's a panic in that, and I think people need to be a little bit more self-sustaining. I've been around chickens before, and there's some peace of mind knowing where the chickens are coming from and their beautiful, healthy eggs. I hear about chickens and plants being in small little cages just getting ready to get pumped in and pumped out. I think this is a very humane way of having livestock and getting people to care for something other than themselves. I just think it's a great time to get creative in this time where things are uncertain. Let's put some rules on this. Let's have it be 25 feet away from our neighbors. Yes, let's have just 4 hens, make it manageable. Let's change up that they don't go to the animal shelters next to our dogs and cats. Let's eat them. Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's really all I have to say. Nothing much more than what everybody else has already heard. I'm just very interested in this. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking time. We've got Cody Brown up next. Cody, and then Lennon Held will be after Cody.
Thank you guys for your time today. I spoke at the last Legal and Finance Committee meeting regarding the hens and have since kind of been brought into a position to assist with the Rapid City Hens Facebook page and the organization of the ordinance and spreading the word on it. I'm a realtor here in Rapid City. I personally have seen over and over people that are relocating from other sides of the country, especially due to the pandemic, that are wondering about sustainability. They're getting out of their communities that they live in because they don't feel safe. They don't feel they have the resources necessary. They're being taxed. So they're coming to Rapid City, and they think it's interesting that they're in Rapid City. Sioux Falls allows chickens, Rapid City does not. So that's one thing where, Sioux Falls is a bigger community along with Denver and Colorado Springs. They also allow urban hens, and they're responsibly kept, and the ordinance is ran responsibly. I get the concerns with cleanliness. I personally grew up around farms as a kid, and I've seen the effort that it takes to keep a coop. I don't anticipate somebody who doesn't want to go out and clean it or have the love for the practice to invest up to $1,000 or more in a good setup. It's literally process after process, and you are pretty much a small farmer at that point. So I understand that people say people will get them and they won't take care of them. In those situations, we have the ordinance to help address that. But personally seeing some urban hen set coops myself, showing houses, I could get pictures for you guys so that you can see some of the setups that are in town and how they're kept responsibly. As the city attorney, I believe, indicated the last meeting that they're all over town already. And I believe that there has been very few complaints, from what I gather from the last meeting, to the code department on people that are not keeping them responsibly. The people that have them, it's so that they can help sustain, so they can get their fresh eggs. They're not trying to get them and not take care of them. You might have a few people that sneak in the cracks that do that, but at the end of the day, it's a labor of love. I would love to give my son the opportunity to do 4-H and not have to drive him outside of town to see a chicken on a regular basis. We both are full-time working parents as well as his mom, and that would be limited. So if we had the ability to do urban hens in town, he would have the ability to take those to the fair and to do 4-H. I personally have agreed to volunteer along with many members of the Rapid City Hens group and some of the surrounding farms to help with stray chickens, or if there's a need for someone to go pick one up and keep them in their coop, then we would be responsible for that, and we would set up a group, and we can definitely get that together if you guys need names and numbers, and know that people are committed to help with this, that we are serious about it, and that we just want to have the ability, as Corey said, to sustain. And are we going to be able to live off 6 chickens and their eggs? Probably not, but at the end of the day, it's healthy. It's one of those things where we can share our eggs with our neighbors, and it's just one of those things that can help bring the community together. I get the concerns about the lower property values, but it's no different than if you live to someone that's not taking care of their yard, that's not mowing, that's got voles growing all throughout their yard. We have somebody in our neighborhood that's similar to that. So there are lots of things that can drop property values. Urban hens should not be picked on for that reason. And I think that personally, just talking to all the people that have reached out to me in this short amount of time that I've been a part of this process, which all started out of curiosity to want to get chickens for ourselves, that there is a lot of support in the community, and we would be able to help help with the Humane Society, and help with anything that comes up along the way that we can deal with, because life isn't perfect. There will be problems and there will be growing pains. It's nothing that we can't work through in the year of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Next up is Lennon Held. Lennon, it's a cool name.
Thank you. I wasn't really expecting to speak today, but I guess I gotta stand up for what I want. And I think that having chickens would be really cool. They look really friendly and really nice to have. Just to wake up in the morning and just see them in my backyard and just be able to go pet them. I have friends, a friend actually in Rapid City that has them, and they looked very cared for, and they were very quiet, and their cage was very clean. Yeah, it looked very nice to have them, and I just really like to have them.
Lennon, how old are you?
I am 13.
Thank you for participating. We're really glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah.
We had a latecomer on item 7, so we're going to let Jay Davis speak on that right now. Jay, if you come on up.
Thank you for
Jay Davis.
allowing me the chance to speak. I'm Jay Davis. I'm a practicing attorney in Rapid City, and if it matters, I'm a resident and taxpayer in Ward 1. And I'm here to speak in support of the resolution that Justin Harriman and others are promoting, asking our congressional delegation to designate the Upper Rapid Creek watershed as a recreation area and withdraw it from potential mining. When white settlers first came into the sacred treaty lands of the Black Hills, their motive for doing so was gold. And at that time, gold was currency, and it was highly valued. Even before we started dealing with issues of climate, we recognized that water is precious. We live in a semi-arid region of the country. We're west of the 100th meridian. Water is critical to our economy for all reasons. And Pactola, Lake Pactola, is a recreational gem for the Black Hills and for Rapid City. All of us, whether we're native, non-native, whether we live in Rapid City, Box Elder, Ellsworth, one thing we have in common is we all need clean water, and Rapid Creek is our source of drinking water. The Rapid Creek watershed also includes Peshla, which is a Lakota cultural site of some great importance. In April of this year, American Rivers named Rapid Creek as one of the 10 most endangered rivers in the United States. How did we ever get on that list? Do we think of our water as being pristine, suitable for recreation, suitable for drinking? What can we do to protect that resource, Rapid Creek? Our congressional delegation could sponsor legislation to permanently protect the Upper Rapid Creek watershed. And I assure you, there is precedent for this in other parts of the United States. Just within the last year, public lands in a national forest in north central Washington state was withdrawn permanently from mining, potential mining, and designated a recreation area, partly because there was a much loved ski resort in that region, and there was a large mine proposed there. That legislation easily went through Congress. It had the support of Washington's 2 senators, who happened to be Democrats, and the representative from that district, who happened to be a Republican. So it was bipartisan legislation. The people who are most familiar with that part of the country were behind it. It sailed through Congress. There's another bill currently pending with a similar motivation to protect land surrounding the boundary waters in northern Minnesota. That has not received final congressional action at this time. If people can do it in other parts of the country, we can do it. We're proud of our community. We're proud of our recreational resource. We should value our clean water, which is sometimes scarce, and we should ask our congressional delegation to pass legislation to permanently protect the watershed in which we live. So I hope that you will take favorable action on this resolution. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And with that, public comment is now closed. We'll go on to item number 7, and I will take comments from the council, the committee members present. Oh, sorry, I am just really not thinking about this today. Request from Justin Harriman on behalf of Rapid Creek Watershed Action to approve the attached resolution supporting the creation of a recreation area in the Upper Rapid Creek Watershed. Pat Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm curious as to what the status is of the request of the congressional delegation at this time.
Councilman Jones, we have received positive feedback from all 3 congressional representatives, and one of them said that he is very focused, through a spokesperson, I did not speak with him directly, but he did say that he's very focused on local rule, and so he's looking for support from the local government entities, and once that has been given, or he understands the positions of those local governmental bodies, then he will take action on the legislation.
So who made the request? Who wrote the request?
With regards to what?
Your request to the congressional delegation to remove this.
We had members within the Watershed Action that have reached out. I personally spoke to one of the representatives of one of the congressmen and had a very good conversation and was basically instructed to go talk to the local governmental bodies, find out their position, and then come back. And once we had resolutions of support from those governmental bodies, the legislation would be sponsored and put forth.
So it's in the request stage in the philosophical mode right now. There hasn't been an official document created by an organization sent to them requesting it.
That is correct.
It's in the discussion stage right now, waiting for action from local governments and others.
So the linchpin to getting this process going is the resolution from the Rapid City Council. Once we have that secured, I'm very confident that the other bodies will follow suit. So that's why we've come to you first.
Very good.
Because
Thank
from
you.
a population standpoint, we're most affected.
Thank you very much. I'll yield.
You'll want to stay up there, Justin. Chair recognizes Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me start by reminding people that we actually did pass a resolution protecting Rapid Creek. However, this is different because the Pactola area is, we're looking to have a creation of a recreational level, so it takes it to the next level. And just to reiterate what Mr. Harriman said, This needs to have a little bit more teeth than what we initially passed. So there might be some people that are confused. Didn't we already talk about this? So this is related, but bigger and different and better, in my humble opinion. I feel that most, if not all, of us here on this committee either ran on economy, infrastructure, and or quality of life, maybe all three. This fits in very well. And to reiterate what Mr. Harriman said, we do have a fiduciary and ethical obligation to protect our water. Water seems to be something that we take for granted until your water's shut off or your water heater goes off. Then immediately it's a priority. We can't bathe without it. We can't drink without it. We can't cook without it. We have an obligation to protect this, and this is a great way to do it, and I commend Mr. Harriman, Mr. Davis, and the people that are behind this, and I will fully support this. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Jason Solomon.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think we all like water. Water's a good thing. I don't think anybody ran up here on an anti-water platform, but I do have a question for our city attorney, if I can direct a question to him, Madam Chair.
Please do. Go ahead.
Joel, just for the sake of clarification, we're passing a resolution. Does it give any authority for anything, or is it mostly a symbolic gesture, a statement from us regarding how we feel about protecting the Pactola Reservoir recreation area?
I don't think it commits you to anything other than, I'm assuming it will be used to then, as has been discussed, take in and say, hey, the city of Rapid City supports this creation. As far as taking any action to further that, I don't know that it commits you to anything. It's just
It's a statement, just for the public's sake, it's a statement from us regarding how we feel about any potential efforts in this area.
Well, I think it goes beyond. I mean, your first statement from earlier in the year was a statement against gold mining. This is a statement that supports the creation of a recreation area. So it's more, I would say it's more than just a statement supporting protection of the water. It is a statement seeking the creation of a recreation area, which ultimately I think people believe will protect the watershed.
Absolutely. Mr. Harriman, let me say this, 100% behind this effort.
Thank you, Councilman.
I think a lot of us up here, listen, I understand there's a place for mining. I don't want to demonize mining because there's a place for that. But Pactola is a reservoir for our water. Rapid Creek obviously plays a big role in that, and obviously we're going to have to address probably continued issues related to that. So if this helps in any way, if it sends a message to our congressional delegation, I would say, listen, we as a city, at least I can speak for me, 100% support protecting this area, protecting our water for generations to come, if that's what it's about. So I ask those questions. I ask lots of questions, always confuses people, but I ask questions to get clarity on issues, to make sure I know exactly what we're voting on, so that you all know exactly what we're voting on. But just so it's very clear, I do support this effort and wish you well, and thank you for taking up the cause.
Thank you for your support.
Chair recognizes Pat Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to go just a little bit deeper into the question. So as far as legal authority to legislate or mandate something at Pactola Lake, obviously that's not in the city limits, so we wouldn't have legal authority to do anything at Pactola Lake. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so it would be, as Mr. Solomon said, a statement of support for this because of the impact on us.
Correct.
Okay.
To the authorities that presumably have that authority.
Presumably, yes.
And one point of clarification, I would like to remind the council members that Rapid City owns the water rights to 80% of the contents of Pactola Reservoir. 80% of the water that's stored in there is owned by the citizens of Rapid City for residential and commercial use.
Okay, and I would like to continue, if I may.
Make it short.
Wow. Is there any downside in us supporting this resolution for Joel?
I don't think that's really a legal question. I think, that's more of a political, philosophical question. Sometimes these issue statements, there's people that have various opinions in the community. So, that's really up to you guys to weigh. I don't have a legal objection to it.
Okay, and that's the opinion I wanted from you, was the legal one. So thank you, I appreciate that. And then as I quickly wrap up, holy cow. I appreciate what you said about the 80%, because I'm sitting here thinking, who's looking out for us while all this is going on up there? There's drilling and there's testing and all this. I lived in Lead, South Dakota for 14 or 15 years, and Lead was the home of Homestake Mining and Golden Reward Mining and many others. And mining has had a huge impact on the Northern Hills and the state of South Dakota's economy since the 1800s. However, it's also had some very negative impacts as well. So I'm sitting here thinking, who's looking out for us? If that water gets damaged, if the aquifer gets damaged, a lot of people are going to get hurt. So I couldn't agree more with your statements about our obligations, morally, ethically, fiduciarily, big word. So yeah, I'm with you 100% in support of this as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Chair recognizes Laura Armstrong.
If I may, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Armstrong to approve, and a second by Jones to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous? Okay. All opposed? Seeing none, we have approved this resolution. I would like to go on just a little bit here as chair. I invited Mr. Harriman to be here and worked with Joel on getting this on our agenda today. When we had the School of Mines people here last fall, was it? Gee, I did ask the question directly. I said, do you use cyanide in your drilling and your exploratory processes? And the woman who answered my question said, not as much as we used to. That was not quite what I wanted to hear. The exploration is going on now, and this is really well timed to protect our health and the lifestyle of the people in Rapid City. I am very proud of this committee, and we will send this to the full council on Monday night with a due pass recommendation. So that is surprising to me and absolutely astounding and very responsible. So thank you, Mr. Harriman.
Thank you very much, members of the council. We appreciate you very much.
All right, now on to item number 8. I will read it. Introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6445, an ordinance authorizing the keeping of hens on certain residential properties in the city by amending section 6.08.020 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Looking for comments. Chair recognizes Jason Solomon.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I will make a motion to approve. If I can get a second and retain the floor for discussion, please.
Second by Laura Armstrong.
So I understand this is a very controversial issue because there's a lot of passion on all sides. Since I've returned to council, I don't think I've heard about a single issue more than I have on this, and it's been very split. And I think there are good points all around. And so I just want to acknowledge that and mention that. When we started this discussion in July, thanks to Alderwoman Drew, my take was I was open to it with proper guardrails in place that were responsible, reasonable, and respectful. And looking through the ordinance, by and large, I think we do a good job. Now, I think there are some question marks that we have, so I called counterpart in the Sioux Falls City Council, actually via email, and asked some questions about their experience with this so that I would talk, hey, what's another community of our size and larger? Have they had any regrets? What did they wish they would have done differently? And very few major issues. Some roosters get in occasionally, which that is prohibited. There will be people who don't follow the ordinance, and so that'll be something we have to monitor. But the big thing for me was to think, beyond what people could do on their property, was what was the reasonable standard that we've set as a community for pets or anything like that. And so when we look at the dog situation, I'm a huge dog lover, got dogs myself, very passionate about that. So I look at that reasonable standard. I look at with the cleanliness standards, the odor standards, doing what we can to do to protect from predators. Those sorts of factors are big. if there's any question mark that I have, and something I think that needs to be worked out, is the enforcement part of this. I appreciate the Rapid City Hens group willing to work with the Humane Society, because that might be where the Humane Society might end up with the call, but they have contacts within the Hens group so that they can shelter in a better situation than next to the, dogs and reptiles and cats and all of that. So the additional thing I want to make a point on is if you live in a neighborhood that has a homeowners association, your neighborhood will be governed by what's allowed there. So my neighborhood, unfortunately, I will not be allowed to have chicken coops without breaking my HOA covenants. And but not everybody has that in place, but just so you know that's part of this as well. So all that said, I'm sure that there are things to be ironed out and worked on, but by and large, I support the right to responsibly manage backyard hens, assuming that it is respectful to the neighbors as much as possible, and obviously because it's within reason. And so I appreciate the city attorney providing proper guidelines, doing their research, and also once again to Alderwoman Drew for bringing this forward. I'll yield. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A month ago, I said I needed to hear from my constituents on this issue because personally I don't for or against, and overwhelmingly it has been against. So unfortunately, I will not be supporting this ordinance today.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Solomon took most of my points, but I will echo what he said, and I'm happy to know that I wasn't the only one that called over to Sioux Falls. There's my little nerd moment. And Sioux Falls shared with me there hasn't been any significant personal property valuation that has gone downhill. There are no mass salmonella outbreaks going on over there, and they really don't have this problem with enforcement. I will echo again what Mr. Solomon had said about this would be a great opportunity for the Humane Society to partner with our community members and community groups. Obviously, I have a lot of love and respect for our Humane Society, and I think they do a great job on a shoestring budget. But I do not see, if this passes, masses of people, excuse the term, flocking to Fleet Farm and Runnings and Tractor Supply. I just don't see it happening. And I had a conversation with Alderman Roberts about this, who I look to for advice, and I just keep going back to what he said about how homeowners associations and the restrictions and the covenants are really going to weed through this. So I have good faith that this is an opportunity for us to do something new and cool and innovative, but it's also a good opportunity to be a good neighbor as well. I'm going to support this. I just think it's a good idea. I will make one final point. I'm going to go back to when we had the bee issue and the beekeepers. Mass opposition, and people had valid concerns, children that had anaphylactic shock, those kinds of things. And the e-bikes, that was a couple of years ago. They thought that people would just be running out to get these e-bikes, and then they were going to be driving like crazy and running people off the bike path. That hasn't happened. So I do take their concerns seriously, but I think they're taking it to the worst case scenario, and I don't think this is going to happen. I think Ms. Drew and our city attorney and even our community development director, Mr. Young, have worked hard to kind of work through things where people will not fall through the cracks. We will do our best. We have an opportunity for our community members to step up as well. Let's try this, let's do this, and let's just go forward. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Pat Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're not on.
Thank you. In the 3 months that I've been on the council, this has been the biggest vote that's come forward. And I appreciate everything that is involved with it. like Councilperson Lehman, I put word out on Facebook, I put word out on the Nextdoor group that the discussion was going on. I wanted to know what people had to say. And many, many people contacted me, and I appreciate all the people in my ward and those outside of it that emailed or called or contacted me in whatever way. Your opinion matters a lot, and it's valued, so I thank all of you. It was about 70% against chickens and 30% in favor. That's rather overwhelming to me. So I'm looking at this kind of like when I was a sports official. I refereed football, high school football, for 33 years, and my job as the official was to observe what took place, apply the rule, apply the spirit of the rule, and try to keep things fair. And so in thinking of this, the three things that keep coming up when people talk to me about it is they're concerned about the noise, they're concerned about the smell, and they are concerned about the predators. And we've heard that mentioned several times today. And so in thinking about all that and trying to apply not only the rule or the ordinance, but the spirit of the rule, what keeps coming back to my mind is the timing of this. Right now, many people in this room and many people in our community are just barely hanging on day to day. They are financially, emotionally, employment insecure. We are all very stressed out right now about a lot of things going on, understandably so. Based on that and everything else that I've observed and heard, it seems to me that the time to bring on something like this is when things are better and a lot more warm and fuzzy, and people are more willing to try something new and different, rather than at the height of a level of fear, concern, distraught, and distress that most of us have ever seen in our lifetime. And so because of all that, I cannot support the ordinance, and I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. Unlike Councilman Jones, I don't see our community as being in that much stress. Maybe I see optimistically, but it seems to me Rapid City is kind of doing pretty well against all the odds. And so I think the time is now. The need is here, and we've got to actually do this. It's come up before. It's time to move on it. I want to point out one thing to the folks in this room or listening. Look at the agenda that we go through in this council. There are things on every one of these items that change lives every day. Everything that we consider every day, it changes lives. This is a big thing we're looking at right now, there's no question. But is it bigger than our water supply? Probably not. Is it bigger than committee members that are going to chart our future? I don't know. So I think that we have to look at this as not a huge thing. Just because people can wrap their head around it and are getting a hold of all of us, it doesn't mean that it's the most important thing we're doing today. Not to me, anyway. But I do support it. And we are looking at a different solution now, okay? We're looking at working with a citizens group, the Urban Hens, along with our Humane Society, hopefully, and we're going to work this out. I've also reached out to people on the reservation. I have friends there that said their generation group will take them. Their food sovereignty group will take them. If we ended up with 22 chickens, they will be repurposed, okay? That's the word I'm going to use. And so we don't have to have a place for them to stay. They are not dogs, they are not cats, these are hens. And so if we can work together, we can find a way to do this. I'm not going to say to our young people who say, I hear this all the time, well, they can just move out of the city. They can just move out of the city limits. They can go to Box Elder. They can go to Piedmont. I don't want them to go to Hermosa. I don't want them to leave Rapid City. I want them to be here. This keeps coming up because young people want it. And when I read the names, Lennon, Cody, Melissa, Amber, those are the people that I'm hearing from. They want this. They're our future. They're worth it. They're worth it for us to find a solution to this. It's not rocket science. It's chickens. And they're not, the predators won't increase. They're here for your trash more than chickens. Trash is easy. Chickens are a little harder to get food from, okay? So they're here for your trash. And we have them right now. We have skunks, we have coyotes, we have foxes, we have all those things. Think their numbers are going to grow exponentially because we have chickens? I don't think so, because we've also heard the chickens are already here. I think we can solve this. We've got the people that want to solve this. And we've got people that want to have food sovereignty here in Rapid City. No, this is not an economic boon for them. They're not going to go out and sell those eggs and make money because it's just not economically solvable. That's just not solvent. You know, so what they want is to be able to have some control over what they eat. And they have people here that are going to help them. Now, 22 chickens is a pretty big amount, but I bet you that we could get those to the reservation to Batesland where they process those and they get them to elders. This is also about food sustainability across the western South Dakota. So if you're all thinking about your own backyards, not going to work for you most likely. But if you're thinking big picture and long term, this is what we need. And so of course I'm going to support this. This is why I brought it forward, and it's time. And we don't have to wait until things get better, because they're probably not going to get better for quite a while as far as COVID goes. But our city is strong. Our city is forward-thinking. We're Rapid City. We're not some town that just blows things off and says, go move somewhere else because we can't possibly figure out how to have chickens. I think that's our hens. I think that is really a bad excuse to not go forward. And I know I'm passionate about it, but I don't want hens, but I do want them for the people that want that opportunity in this city. Thank you. So, we're going to take a vote. All in favor of item 8? Yeah, you have a motion. Jason made the motion. You second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 3. All opposed? No. Got 2. Motion carries. Now on to community development, and I need some water. Second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6439, an ordinance amendment to amend fence height provisions and amending section 17.50.340 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Move to approve by Solomon, second by Jones. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, approve resolution number 2020-075, a resolution to dissolve tax increment district number 68 for property generally described as being located at the eastern terminus of Homestead Street.
Move to approve. Second.
Approved by Lehman, second by Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And now we're going to go to Laura Armstrong for just a moment. She asked a point of privilege.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to take... Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Chair. I want to take this moment to remind everybody that early voting is going on. Vote. Different ways that you can do this. First and foremost, please get on the Secretary of State website, sdsos.gov, and make sure that you are registered. If you are not, you still can register. And you can go to the Auditor's Office off of Kansas City until November 2nd. In addition, I know it's difficult to get people to the polls on Election Day, and especially in Ward 1, we are going to have 2 elections because we do have an open seat for City Council. The candidates will be submitting their petitions this Friday, I believe. Ms. Assumption, is the deadline? Okay, please don't wait until Friday. And so if you do show up at the polls, only in Ward 1, which is Mr. Jones's area at this point, which is the southeast corner of our great city. But you will have to wait, if you are early voting, until October 18th, 19th for that ballot. So please vote. It is very important. So if you have already early voted and you live in Ward 1, you still do have another election coming your way, and it is a way to show your voice. So thank you. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Councilwoman Armstrong. Now a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jones, second by Solomon. All in favor?